more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is Positive Talk Radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And welcome to Living Your Inspired Life. You're listening to News Talk 1590 KVTA. And as always, I just want to remind our listeners that living your inspired life is all about the positive, all about how to shift your perspective even 1 degree and see your life in a new light and know that as you tune in, you can tune up and have that life you were born to live. So if you are curious about, it's your first time joining us today, go to livingyourinspiredlife.org and you can get caught up in the conversation we've been having over the last several months. And today, I'm really happy to have somebody who's written a book about happiness. And I know there are many of us right now going, okay, when am I going to be happy? How does that work? I don't know. So I'm so grateful to have joining me today, Jonathan Robinson. Jonathan, thank you.
My pleasure, Susan. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so you have a brand new book. You've written several books, but this latest one just came out, and it's called, so everybody knows, it's called Find Happiness Now, 50 Shortcuts for Bringing More Love, Balance, and Joy into Your Life. And the thing I like about this, Jonathan, is you said 50 shortcuts. And the shortcut thing is interesting to me.
Well, that came from the fact that I'm a lazy person, and anything that took more than 2 minutes a day to do, I was not going to do. So I focused on things that took under 2 minutes a day to do that really had an impact on me. So that's how that came about.
Well, it's interesting because I was going through your book and just the table of contents. This book's okay. Everybody, you need to get this book, Find Happiness Now, because you've covered everything. It seems like to me. You've covered self development and how to be in the world, and I'm just excited that we're going to have this conversation today.
Oh, good. So am I.
So let me just tell everybody that the way Find Happiness Now in your book breaks down, you have a section on called Feeling Really Good. And then the next one is Loving Yourself, something I've personally been striving to do. And then the third is Improving Your Relationships. And the fourth is Connect with Spirit. And the fifth is Live Your Dreams. And it seems like each one builds on the other. So, Jonathan, what caused you to write a book about happiness?
Well, depression kind of runs in my family. In fact, it practically gallops in my family because, by the time I was 12, my mother was depressed, I was depressed, my brother and sister were depressed. So I saw how that train was going. I wanted to step off of it. And I got into reading a lot of self-help books, and by the time I was 13, I was meditating every day.
Oh, my God, you're advanced.
Yeah, well, I kind of had my midlife crisis at age 13, which is a good time to have one because that gives you time to try a bunch of other stuff. And I saw that, most of the stuff I was reading wasn't really helpful or was too complicated. But every now and then I'd read an idea or a method that was so simple that even, somewhat lazy person like me could use it, and it really impacted my life. So the Find Happiness Now book is kind of a greatest hits of the 1,200 self-help books I read.
Wow. You know what? I've got stacks and boxes of self-help books, so I can relate to that. And I know I also have depression that runs in my family. And I know that there's lots of people out there right now that are battling it. And a lot of it seems to be possibly chemical, but also, in reaction to whatever circumstances and I want to say proliferation of verbiage that's out there on the news and television and the internet that causes us just to go, wow, why even live?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's plenty of bad news out there, and there's plenty of good news out there. And the human mind is a little bit like, Velcro for negativity.
Oh, that's a good thing to say, yeah.
And you want it to be more like Teflon, and there's some simple ways of doing that. And what I find is, by teaching this stuff, I get to use it, and other people are really grateful that some of these methods work really, really well and really simply, but most people don't know about it because there's not a lot of money to be made by, talking about this information, whereas the antidepressant medication industry is a $20 billion a year industry.
Oh, boy, we could have an entire show just to talk about that, Jonathan, can't we?
We could.
Yeah. So in your book, Find Happiness Now, you've got these simple solutions that are very short. So could you give us an example of one of them to build a happy? Because one of the things you say is you want to actively cultivate the happiness habit. So how do you do that? Like, what's one thing?
Uh-huh. Well, throughout your show, I'm going to give several of these ideas. But before I go into specific methods, it's important to know that some methods will work great for you and some methods won't. That's why I give 50 of them, because if one idea doesn't work for you, another one probably will. And when you find one that really works for you, it's like having a lifelong friend who's there to make each day more meaningful and more joyous. So let me give a couple right now, and they're all different, so they're not alike, but you can get a sense if I talk about several that there's a lot of good ideas in there. One that I like is I schedule time to be with the ones that I love and time to do the things that I most enjoy. Most people, they schedule their work or their doctor's appointments, but they don't schedule time with their best friend or time to play with their dog. And I actually do that because I find that if I don't, sometimes a week goes by and that hasn't happened.
Oh, my God, that's brilliant.
Well, it's pretty simple. But in this day and age where everything's so busy, everybody's so busy, it's really helpful to have those things in the calendar. And I schedule those things first, and then my work has to go around those things.
Wait, okay, that's really smart, too. You schedule those things first, the things that make you happy, the things that time to spend with people and animals that you love. You do that first.
Yeah.
Now, see, yeah. I grew up, I don't know about you, but I grew up in the culture of you got to get your work done first and then you can go out and play. And so consequently, I find I'm on that treadmill of never getting the work done. So when is my playtime?
Yeah, we're what's called part of the as soon as tribe. As soon as I get all my work done, as soon as I get rich, as soon as I look better, as soon as I have the kids out of the house, then I'll be happy. But that time sometimes never happens, and you are always delaying your happiness. And I call the book Find Happiness Now because really today is the only thing you have choice over. And if you know how to find the depth and love and peace in this moment, then the future tends to take care of itself.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. And what I notice in my personal life, because I've had this umpteen-year habit of trying to get the work done, and as soon as thing you just mentioned, it is, I don't know how to undo that. It is challenging for me to go, okay, wait, first what I'm going to do is hang out in the backyard with my dogs. I find that I do that. I promise them every day I'm going to take them for a walk, and weeks go by.
Well, that's why the scheduling in your calendar can actually help, because we tend to do what we schedule. That's one simple technique. Another one is when you find yourself in a happy moment, you're playing with your dog or you're enjoying nature, realize that other voice in your head that says, oh, I should do something productive, will come up, and just ignore it. Because what's more important than enjoying the moment that you're in? We don't give happy or joyous moments enough space. So I let myself spend a couple more minutes playing with my dog than I might normally, because she's enjoying it, I'm enjoying it, and the world probably won't end if we spend 3 more minutes playing.
So what I like is that you also you chunk everything down into small increments.
Right.
I tend to look at
comes to us just one moment at a time.
Right. And I think most people look at it, okay, I'm scheduling for an hour, you know? I got a 10 o'clock, I got a 11 o'clock, I got a 12 o'clock, that kind of a thing. But to what am I trying to say? To insert small pops of happiness on a regular basis, hourly or half hourly, like you're suggesting, it does. My brain is having a hard time to wrapping itself around that, Jonathan.
Well, it's just a couple minutes here and there. I mean, we're all busy, but I like to occasionally play a song and sing along. That takes a couple minutes. It's hard to feel bad if you're singing Twist and Shout by the Beatles.
Right.
So you do that, and then you're back, and you can go back to work, and you feel better. And when you feel better, you're actually more productive, and you're probably nicer as well.
Oh, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. So this is
stuff. They've done interesting studies that show that happy people live 9 years longer than unhappy people. That's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time.
They have half the number of sick days. They raise happier kids, and they have half the rate of divorce, and they make almost $1 million more over the course of their life than unhappy people.
Wow. Those are amazing stats.
Well, we've been taught that success leads to happiness, but it's really the other way around, and that is that happiness leads to success. But, we're not taught that in this culture. We're in a what I call a dangerous cult or culture that teaches us that money or good looks or something will make us happy. But the research doesn't bear that out. And if you spend a lot of time focusing on trying to get happiness where it is not, you won't have as much energy to focus on where it's really located, which is inside you and how to uncover it within you.
Okay, so what's another way to uncover the happiness within you? If you're okay, when I am feeling really low, I got nothing about happiness inside. There's not even there's not even a droplet. So How do you pull that out of yourself when you're in those deep dark places?
Well, if you try enough things, you'll find something that works well. One that works well for me is doing an act of kindness for a stranger or friend. And studies show that small acts of kindness for a stranger or friend immediately boost your own happiness level rather dramatically. And it also helps other people be happy as well. Or one of my favorite techniques is to tune into being grateful for simple things in my life. I mean, you and I live better than billionaires lived 15 years ago. We have more access to health care. We have the internet. We can talk to anybody in the world from anywhere in the world. But if you don't take time to feel grateful, then it all just kind of becomes background and you miss it all.
As you're saying that, Jonathan, I'm also hearing kind of like that gratitude stream, if you will, or the kindness stream is kind of what connects all of us energetically, or it's almost like it's a invisible matrix, if you will, an invisible internet. But when we're in those states of gratitude, even if it's a little bit, an itty bit of gratitude, or feeling kind towards somebody, it connects us to everything else. Yes. Yeah.
And can lift you up rather quickly, vibrationally or however you might want to talk about it, so that if you are in a angry or depressive hole that you built, it allows you to get back to either the ground level or even higher, because you're now in a whole new stream of energy.
So for people that don't practice that, it sounds like it would be because on Living Your Inspired Life, we've talked often about gratitude journals and doing, writing 10 things you're grateful for in the morning or the evening, or, go over your day and what is it I'm grateful for and what is it I need to let go of and stuff like that. But to do it more frequently, I like this idea of scheduling this stuff. Maybe it's because I'm a linear thinker, but I like the idea of scheduling this stuff and also scheduling my time to go take a moment to say, okay, what am I grateful for right now?
Yeah, I tried a gratitude journal, but I was so lazy that I didn't keep up with it. So I was looking for a way to feel a lot of gratitude that would take preferably under 5 seconds of effort. And I'd heard of an Indian guru who had supposedly this magical mantra that helped people feel overwhelming gratitude.
Oh, really?
I actually flew to India to meet this guy and, traveled 18,000 miles and then, 5 hours by rickshaw. And finally, I get to his ashram. I wait in line to meet him a few hours. I'm jet-lagged and worn out. But I finally, say, hey, I flew all the way from America to hear your mantra to help me feel gratitude. And he says, yes, my mantra is the most powerful mantra on earth. And then he leaned in to whisper it into my ear, and I'm very excited. And he says, whenever possible, repeat the following words in your head. The mantra I give you are the words, thank you. Well, I said, that's it? Thank you? I traveled 18,000 miles to hear that, thank you, that's it? And he says, no, that's it is a mantra you have been using, and that mantra makes you feel like you never have enough. My mantra is the word thank you, not that's it. That's it will take you nowhere. So I was pretty pissed off because I thought I was going to get this great technique.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I traveled all that distance, so I figured I would start trying this just, for the hell of it. And so, somebody offered me a cup of tea, so I said thank you. And he made it clear that you have to say thank you not from your head, but from your heart.
Right.
So I said, I took a second to say thank you to this person who offered me some tea. And then somebody offered me a cookie. I said, well, thank you for that. And then I noticed that there was air conditioning in this room, and it's hot in India. So I said, thank you for the air conditioning. And then I stepped outside and had to get a taxi to my hotel. Thank you that I have money to pay for the taxi. Thank you that there's a taxi. Thank you that I have a hotel. Thank you that there's air conditioning in the hotel. I took a shower. Thank you for this, water. I sat on my bed and, we had internet connection there. Thank you for the internet. I get to, talk to my wife by Skype for free. I mean, thank you. That's a miracle.
Yeah.
And I kept on doing this, and within 40 minutes, I had tears of gratitude coming down my face just for recognizing the blessings that were all around me that I previously didn't see.
Right.
So, you can say thank you without taking any extra time. And if you really, I'm looking out my window, I could say thank you for the trees. Thank you, it's a beautiful day. Thank you, my dog is sleeping under my feet here. Thank you for my dog. All these blessings are here. But if you don't have a method for tuning into them, then they all go unnoticed.
I love that. A very simple thing, a simple mantra. And I notice when you said tears of gratitude after a while, I notice that that happens to me when I drive. I live in, Southern California, and I always have a beautiful drive wherever I go. It's just phenomenal. And there's days where I'm just driving to get to where I want to be, and I haven't paid attention to a thing outside of me. And then there's other days where I'm like, there's migrant workers working in the fields picking strawberries. I'm like crying, saying, thank you for you doing that so that I can have a strawberry. Thank you.
Right.
That's very powerful, Jonathan.
And, there's 50 ideas in the book. You only need to connect with one or two and your whole life has changed. What saddens me is that most people are so busy trying to use a method of finding happiness that's very ineffective. The main method we're taught in this cult or this culture that we're in is that you should get everything in the world to be exactly the way you want. that you would have ultimate control.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's what we're taught. And, you look at somebody who has done something like that, like maybe Donald Trump. But he doesn't look very happy to me.
Mm-mm.
The people who I know who are really the happiest, who are wildly excited about their life, who wake up excited, are usually little kids, and they have very little control.
Except for their excitement level.
Yeah, right.
They get to be over the top as much as they want.
Which is so appealing. That's why happy people tend to have a lot more friends.
Yeah.
And make a lot more money, because we like to be around people who are excited about their life.
So being happy is the precursor, like you said earlier. It's the precursor to success.
Yes.
It's what seeds everything else.
Success, financially especially, does not lead to happiness. Once you're middle class, more money doesn't help at all in you being happier.
It's so interesting because when I remember when I was in my 20s, and I remember this thing that you said earlier of as soon as, or when I get that, then I'll be happy. And I had that going on. Well, when I'm able to pay my rent every month on time, I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. When I'm able to have a car that doesn't break down, then I'll be happy. And I noticed again, it became habitual that the then I'll be happy when constantly put off the happiness. It's fascinating how that's kind of a mind game we give ourselves.
Yeah, and the mind never runs out of stuff, no matter how much control or whether things even go the way you want. It always comes up with a new thing.
Yeah. So it's interesting too, Jonathan, in your book, Find Happiness Now, I got caught by the title of one of the chapters that says getting Bertha off your back.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that? Because I read that and I'm like, okay, this, I got a voice like that. So can you share that with our listeners, what that is all about?
Sure. Everybody has a chatterbox mind, and sometimes that voice in your head can even be abusive. It calls you stupid, or you shouldn't have done that, or you're lazy, or you look terrible today, whatever it does. The problem is we identify with that voice, and I call that voice Bertha. It's like a 500-pound woman who is always hitting us over the head. So there's ways to make that voice not so much go away, but not impact you. And one of them is you can change the tone of that voice. I used to be so afraid of talking and so shy, because anytime I said something, Bertha in my head would say, "You shouldn't have said that. That was so stupid. Why'd you do that?" And what I started doing with a simple technique was changing the tone of voice to sound like Mickey Mouse.
Oh.
Now, it's hard to take Mickey Mouse so seriously, so I'd say, "You shouldn't have done that. That was so stupid. Why'd you do that?" It would make me laugh. And soon that voice in my head that I was so afraid of didn't seem like anything significant anymore.
Well, and I can see if you can get to the place, because this has been a personal challenge for me as well, Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
is that because that voice is automatic. It kicks in and it starts wrestling me to the ground before I even realize that I let it in the door. You know what I mean? And so
yeah.
I thought it was interesting to give it a name and a personality. It kind of that begins to distance it from inside you, and then to change the voice and the tone, like you're saying, that sounds wonderful if I can identify it soon enough before it starts dragging me around.
Well, the good news is that Bertha's going to talk to you approximately 150 times to you today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so I have all those opportunities, you're saying?
You have all those opportunities. and it doesn't take much to, it's kind of, Bertha's like this big balloon, just one pinprick, and she can, blow up and be gone, because her power depends on you not making fun of her. If you make fun of her, soon she has no power, because she's just a voice in your head.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I love that. if you make fun of the voice in your head, it goes away or gets smaller.
At least the power does. You know, sometimes I know in certain situations, if I make a mistake or something, Bertha will say what she says, and I actually greet her. I say, "Oh, hi, Bertha. I was expecting you." Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, you need some new lines, Bertha. You always say the same stupid thing. It just doesn't work anymore.
I think that's brilliant, Jonathan. Thank you.
I'm
going to practice that 150
Okay.
times today. I will practice it. So one of the other things that you've done in your life, I'm astounded at everything you fit into a lifetime you're still living. You traveled around the world and met all sorts of different people in this quest for finding yourself and your truth, it sounds like. And you like talked to the Dalai Lama and Mother Teresa and Deepak Chopra and then one of my personal favorites, Kenny Loggins. And so what was some of the insight that you gleaned from all that?
Well, I'm always asking experts on what their favorite method is, so that I can pass it on to both myself and other people. And one thing, for example, the Dalai Lama said, I asked him, what's the purpose of life? And he said, the purpose of life is to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And to use your own abundance and happiness so that you can better serve and be kind to other people. And, you know, there was a lot of agreement about that, but that's really what we're here to do. So I don't think of being happy as a selfish thing, and studies show that happy people actually are able to give back a lot more because they're not in such need.
Right.
You know, and everybody has found different ways to tune into that peace and joy and love inside. And part of our mission, should you decide to accept it, is to try a bunch of different stuff, really simple stuff, to see what really works for you.
So it sounds like, and with what you just said about the Dalai Lama saying our mission in life is to be happy, it almost sounds like the happiness people. Okay, here's what I want to say about this. And there's a question in here somewhere, Jonathan, if you can hear it.
Okay.
But when people are, you know, in my personal experience, like I said earlier, when I've been down and out, I do notice that what I do is I go around to people. And I have people that have done this to me. You know, we go around looking for the person who's going to give me that gem of advice that's going to fix me, or it's going to make me happy, or they're going to at least affirm to me that, yeah, it's absolutely right. Your life sucks, and that's why, you know, you should be there. So it's almost like the happiness thing. We become more, I want to say, self-contained or whole within ourselves, and so we don't need to look outside of ourselves as much.
Exactly. We don't have to spend so much of our time, energy, and money trying to get something from out there to make us feel better. Because if you have the right method or the right idea, you can find it within yourself. And that saves you a lot of time, energy, and money.
It sure does.
And it's more reliable. You know, I love my wife very much, but anytime I rely on her to make me happy, that puts a lot of burden on our relationship. And if you get two unhappy people trying to have a relationship, God help you, because that generally doesn't turn out well.
Nope, doesn't. Personal experience, I can attest to that. Doesn't work. But you know, so what you're talking about is like the opposite of kind of how we've been culturalized or pasteurized in America, because I think, well, I come from the generation that grew up on Disney. You know, and it's the whole Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, happily ever after. They meet, they fall in love, and they live happily ever after. There's no rest of what happens after the happily ever after. You just assume that it's happily ever after, and that whole Disney idea is about promoting finding love outside yourself.
Yeah,
happiness outside yourself.
I call that misplaced hope. We put our hope in things that are really a lot of times hopeless. You know. As I said, I'm very happily married, but I think the reason my marriage works is because we both place most of our hope not in the other person making us happy, but in us being happy ourselves, and then from our own happiness sharing that with each other. So if you put all your hope in, say, money or health, at some point our health is going to be gone. But if you know how to tap into the joy within through, say, meditation or gratitude or scheduling your life or kindness or a lot of different ideas I have, then you have a sense of control because you're not dependent, you're not another person's victim of whether or not they do what you want.
My brain is like trying to download what you just said there. Thank you. Okay. And so then you're also not dependent on somebody else to be your source. Yeah.
We should be our own source.
Yeah, our source of happiness.
There's spirit inside of us. We have a brain that can focus on different things. Sometimes just focusing on a good question can help turn things around. Everybody has stressful things happen to them. But what do you focus on? I'll tell a quick story which I like. This arrogant business tycoon goes up to a little monk and, in a voice accustomed to instant obedience, he says, "Well, if you're so wise, why don't you teach me about heaven and hell?" Well, the monk looks up at him and says, "Teach you about heaven and hell? I couldn't teach you anything. You're ugly. You're disgusting. You smell bad. You don't have a caring bone in your whole body. Just get out of my sight." Well, of course, this infuriates the businessman, and he gets ready to punch the monk in the face, and instant before he throws the punch, the monk says, "That's hell."
Oh.
And then the businessman realized that this monk risked being beaten up to teach him this lesson about hell. So he unclenches his fist, and he bows in gratitude to the monk. And the monk says, "That's heaven."
Oh, wow, Jonathan, I got chills.
Yeah, what I like about that story is he created a moment of heaven and hell for himself simply by how he interpreted what was going on.
Uh-huh.
First he was insulted, and he said, "Oh, well, I'm being insulted," and that was hell. And then he, with the exact same experience, he saw, no, he was trying to help me, and he bowed in gratitude and created a moment of heaven. So we're always interpreting our life, and through that interpretation, we create either moments of heaven or hell. And sometimes a simple question like, what could potentially be good about this, can turn your thoughts around. Have you ever had something bad that happened, you thought was bad, and then later you realized it was a really good thing?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Well, why not realize it in that moment? You save yourself a lot of negative feelings.
Oh, sure, and stress and angst.
Yeah.
And that feels like it feels like a yoga. You know what I mean? It feels like you have to become very flexible at doing that.
Well, all you have to do is do it once in a while, because as we said before, you get a lot of opportunities. Life is a nonstop stressful event
Yeah.
a lot of the times. And really, when you turn one thing around like that, you think, wow, there's hope in this. I could have been stressed out for a day. Instead, I was stressed out for a minute. And when I saw that such things were possible, it really made me excited.
So it sounds like happiness is connected to being hopeful as well, or hope-filled.
Yeah.
So
that if you have hope, I mean, sometimes you can have a bad day, and then one little thing happens that helps you feel hopeful, and it changes your whole attitude. So hope is important because you don't have to wait. When I was depressed and even suicidal as a teenager, I didn't have to wait 20 years to feel good, where my life was somewhat together.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I made my first friend, I saw that, wow, it's possible to have a friend. I was filled with hope, and I felt like I was on the right road. And when you're on the right road, it feels really good, even if you're just starting on that road.
That makes a lot of sense. Jonathan, in your book, Find Happiness Now, you also have a section on connecting with spirit, which it kind of sounds like that's a little bit of what you've been talking about right now, that happiness and spirit are connected. I wonder if people really understand that.
Well, it's not a one-to-one connection, but I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to connect with peace and joy and love, which is my definition of connecting with spirit, if you're happy. It's harder if you're depressed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I think of connecting with spirit as like a higher end of happiness, where you are so filled from within that you're more available to do what's needed or to let your love out and help other people.
So then let's go back to when people are depressed and sad and feeling hopeless, and this connection to spirit. Is there, I mean, I'm trying to ask, how do we dig ourselves out of that? Because there's because it to me, it feels cyclical. It's almost like, okay, this is what I want to ask, Jonathan.
Okay.
Because it is cyclical, I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking for the solution. And once I find the solution or the magic key that opens the door, I'll feel this forever, right? I'll be happy the rest of my life. I guess I'm going back to the Disney modality, happily ever after. But, which isn't necessarily so, right? But
yeah.
So in this spirit connection, and you're saying in the love and the peace and feeling that, will that kind of lessen the cycle of going into depression or any of that?
Well, it is somewhat of an inoculation. Feeling good
I like that.
is a great inoculation from feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
So what I encourage people to do is try different methods, find ones that work well for them, and next time life tries to knock you down, use those methods, or use one or two or three or four of them and see which one works the best for you. And different things might work for different people. But what we're taught in this culture is that you should take an antidepressant, medication or something like that, which have a lot of side effects. They don't work well. They're expensive. And it's unfortunate because you're still not learning how to take care of yourself emotionally. You're now still relying on something else, even if it works a little bit. So when people feel bad, or when I feel bad, first of all, sometimes it's okay to feel bad.
You have to have your emotions, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a question of that's a bad thing always. It's just that we spend so much time feeling bad. Kids feel bad, but they don't spend a lot of time feeling bad. They get upset or they get sad, and they feel their feelings, and then they let go of them. But adults often will stay stuck in negative feelings for pretty long periods of time, and that's not necessary.
Is that because we've lived longer, and so then we just have like this template in our brain of, here this goes again, I guess I'm down in the doldrums? Or is it because of the experience of life that we just automatically fall into the pit of despair?
That's a good question. I think it's partly the culture, and it's partly that we don't know simple ways of getting out of bad feelings when it's appropriate. And everybody around us is feeling bad a lot of the time.
There's a lot of that.
So depression and stress is contagious, just like the flu.
Yeah.
So if you're around a lot of people who are stressed out and upset a lot, then you tend to enter the same experience that they have. So you need to have some way of digging yourself out, even though the people around you are often stressed out and upset.
But and then the converse of that is true as well, right? That happiness is contagious as well.
Right, which is why people like to spend time around dogs and young kids, because they tend to be happy. And happiness is contagious as well. And if you can find happy friends, I have a lot of friends, but a certain percentage of them are dogs and kids around the age of 5, because they are often the most joyous. And it's fun to be around happy beings.
Yeah. I totally agree. I absolutely agree. So what's another, give our listeners another modality from your book, a simple way to connect to happiness.
Okay, I'll give you one that they've done a lot of studies to show that this one method, which takes about 2 minutes a day, has more impact on your life than if you suddenly doubled your income.
Oh my gosh.
It is exactly 11 times more powerful than antidepressants in helping people to feel better. Pretty effective.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't work for everybody, and it works slowly. It doesn't work like, bam, the first day you're transformed. It works a little bit, and it has a cumulative effect.
Like a time release.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So if you do this for 2 minutes a night for 10 weeks, you will feel 25% happier. Now, if you won the lottery, you would feel about 20% happier. So 25% is a huge deal. So I'll do the technique with you.
Okay.
So you can see.
I'm excited.
It's called 3 Good Things, and the first part of it is you ask, what's something that has been good that's happened to you in the last day, or you've appreciated in the last day?
Ooh, can I answer?
Yes.
3 good things. Okay. Something that, my cousin called me last night because he needed my advice. And at the end of the conversation, I felt so good that he had reached out to me and I could support him. I hung up the phone and I was in tears because I felt so good that I was able to be of service.
Great. Now, why did that good thing happen? And when you answer this why, which is the key part of this technique, you answer it in relationship to something about you, some characteristic or trait you have that allowed this good thing to happen.
Oh my goodness, that's intense. Wait, okay, say it again. You answer the why because what?
Why did this good thing happen? Why were you able to appreciate this good thing?
Because it comes from me,
made that
though.
Possible?
So what in me made that possible? That's a great question. And it takes it out of the realm of looking outside myself. So,
exactly.
So what in me made it possible? Can I answer that too?
Yes.
I think what in me made it possible is my love, my open-hearted love. Huh.
I agree. And your willingness to be of service as well.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Some people would have gotten that call and said, I'm too busy. But you like to be of service. You find great joy in it. And you're a warm-hearted person, so you attract such things.
It does make me happy to do those things.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so sorry, Jonathan. My mother from day one has said that my first question, the first word I ever said was why.
Uh-huh.
So when you just described why as looking from the inside out, I've always asked the question why from the outside. Why did that happen? Why is this happening all the time, So that's interesting. I'm going to have to contemplate that when we get off the air.
The power of this technique is that you start to see that every single thing in your life that you appreciate from anything is basically due to something about you that attracted it. Even if you like your burger for lunch. Mm-hmm. Why'd that happen? Well, because I really appreciate good food and I savor it and really enjoy it. Well, some people just gulp it down, but, you really took the time to enjoy that burger. So, big or small, it really comes down to that you start to see that you can be a healing presence in the world and bring happiness to both yourself and others because of certain characteristics you have. And when you start to feel that day to day in precise moments, it changes your identity. And you start to see that you are bringing joy into the world, whether it be your world or other people's world, and it feels really good. So it's a very powerful technique. It only takes 2 minutes a day, and it's one of 49 other methods that are powerful. The sad thing is most people don't even know these methods. They're not taught in our educational system. We're taught ridiculous stuff like algebra and geometry and calculus, which we never use, but something which is really important, like how to be happier, is not taught except for those who really make that a priority.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the 2-minute thing, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start practicing this today. The 2-minute thing you just described is called 3 good things.
Yep.
So you come up with 3 good things that happen?
Yeah. And, admittedly, I'm lazy, so it's now been called 1 good thing for me. I just do it, right? I just tune into the feeling, like I'm enjoying this show. That would be 1 good thing I might think of tonight. Why am I enjoying it? Because I like to be of service, and I've been blessed to have all these great people tell me their methods, and I get to use it on myself and other people, and because of my curiosity and perseverance, I get to do this. And that feels really good. So I take a moment to feel like, wow, my curiosity and perseverance and willingness to be service is bringing me and others more joy. I feel that for a moment, and that makes me feel good.
And that sounds like that's probably the most important component of going over the 3 good things, is to actually take a moment to feel it. You can think about it, right? But to feel it kind of starts to download the whole happiness factor into you, yeah?
Yes, exactly. Just like, you can say thank you without feeling it, and you miss the point. But if you really say thank you from your heart and feel it for a moment, that might be the highlight of your day. Right.
So in your book, Find Happiness Now, Jonathan, there's also one of your sections is called Living Your Dreams. Can you give our listeners something out of that section?
Sure. People often ask me, well, I don't know what I really feel passionate about. And I say, well, if you had $1 billion, endless money, but you had to work for 40 hours a week by law, what would you do?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Then it often becomes clear, I'd help, starving children, or I'd help animals, or I'd help, whatever. That way you know what's really important to you.
And then is that okay? So when you find out what's really important to you, then what do you do with it? Because I'm like,
you might volunteer. Next month I'm going to Turkey to help Syrian refugees. Oh. Because I have been around refugees and I like to help them. They're in a difficult situation. So when you find what is important to you, hopefully you can spend an hour a week, an hour a month, an hour a day doing that, and it may even turn into a job at some point.
That's awesome. I hadn't thought of that. I tend to think.
I'm a writer, but I started writing just because I liked it. How many writers make their living? Not many. But I started doing it because I liked it. I felt strongly about it, and before I knew it, I was on Oprah and Good Morning America and doing all these things. But even if those things hadn't happened, I would have still been doing what I love, and that feels good.
I love that. Actively cultivating the happiness habit. So, Jonathan, Find Happiness Now. There is a website where people can go and find out more about the book and you and all the other things, all the other books you've written. And tell everybody the website, would you?
Yeah, it's findinghappiness.com. Just findinghappiness.com. And there's a lot of free stuff on that website, articles and audio downloads and videos. So people, and they can link to the book, which is $12. So there's a lot of stuff on there that they can get for free that is useful happiness tips.
I love it. And there's a couple other books that you've written that are bestsellers. Can you want to toss those out for people to check out? Can they get that through the Finding Happiness website?
All my books are on the website. And the one that really sold the best was called Communication Miracles for Couples.
Oh.
And I was on Geraldo for that one. And then I was on Oprah for a book called Life's Big Questions. So those were a couple of the New York Times bestsellers. But, people should go to what they're attracted to and what might inspire them. And there's a lot of information about the books on the websites as well.
So, Jonathan, what is the most important thing you want people to know about this new book, Find Happiness Now, 50 shortcuts to bringing more love, balance, and joy into your life.
Well, I want them to know that the tips are really easy to do. And even just one of them, there's 50 specific methods, and they generally take less than 2 minutes a day. I'd say the average one takes about 20 seconds a day. And that even if you just find one or two that really work for you, your whole life can really be altered, because once you find something that helps you to go from stressed out to blissed out in a short period of time, then you can use that in every aspect of your life, whether it be work or relationships or any area, and you start to feel more hopeful that the future is going to be bright because you feel like you're moving in the right direction.
So give us one more, as we're getting close to the end here, give us one more modality from the section in the book called Loving Yourself. This is like something I'm working on, learning to love myself more. So what's some tips about that?
Well, sometimes it's easy to ask a good question, like, what is something I appreciate about myself? Or I sometimes have asked my friends, what do they most value about me? And hearing it from other people is pretty powerful.
Yeah,
you know,
those are
for my
good.
birthday, that's what I did last year. I said, don't give me any gifts, just tell me one thing that you appreciate about me. And I recorded it, so that if I ever feel bad about myself, I can listen to that recording and go, oh, yeah, I do have some nice traits.
Oh, that's really smart.
Uh-huh.
In fact, my cousin was going for a job interview this morning. That's why he called. And he said, what I'm going to do while I'm waiting is I'm going to read over the recommendation letters that people wrote about me. I said, that's so smart, because then it reinforces the things that you don't necessarily believe about yourself, but other people see in you.
Or at least not in that moment. You get reminded about the things that people value about yourself. And we need those reminders. We need inspiration and friends and movies and books and shows like this to remind us that we really are unlimited beings that sometimes get stuck in feeling covered over by the stresses of life.
Oh, I like the way that you said that. It is important to have a loving reflection. I find oftentimes when people say nice things, and this is probably true for lots of people, I tend to deflect it. It's like, yeah, thank you very much. But until I really, until you really learn to appreciate yourself from the inside out, which is a part of what your book Find Happiness Now feels like. In the parts that I've read, it feels like it just gives you that. There's more tools there to access yourself from the inside out. Connect with yourself.
Money is one tool, but it's not a very good tool for finding happiness, and it's not always available. So if you can find tools that are always available, that are within your control, then you're more likely to have more happy and joyous moments.
I appreciate that you said that, Jonathan, because I think that our culture is completely wrapped up in the money thing, and it's very easy for people, especially I'm noticing it with young people, that they are more attracted to the money than they are to finding out the truth of who they are.
Yeah, they're going to have to, sometimes you have to pursue something until you hit the dead end before you turn around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you get to the end and then you go, wait a minute, I have to go back and and find the other way, do the other path.
Make a U-turn.
Right. So, Jonathan Robinson, I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and all the work you've done up until now, and I'm grateful. So I just want to say thank you from a heartfelt place.
Thank you, and thank you for shows like this. That's what helps get the word out, and I'm so grateful to all the people who helped me along the way. So I'm just trying to pass it on. I
love that. So Jonathan Robinson, and the new book is Find Happiness Now, and you can go to findinghappiness.com and find out more about the books that Jonathan's written and what he's up to, and there's also some videos on there.
Yeah, I try to be a full media entertainment machine whenever possible.
I love it. So you've been listening to Living Your Inspired Life. I'm Susan Burrell, and if you've missed anything on our program today, you can go to livingyourinspiredlife.org and tune in and tune up and develop your power perspective. So I'm just going to end with saying, and so it is, namaste.